Let me show you how to set up an LLC where your name stays off the public records. Yep, you can have an anonymous LLC where nobody can see that you actually own it. And I'm going to give you the do-it-yourself version because a lot of people want to do this themselves. Let's be real. You go online, you file an LLC, you pay the state, and you think that you're done. And then I just ask a simple question. Does your name still show up in the public record? Because if your name is on the Secretary of State website, if your home address is on that filing, if you listed yourself as a manager or a member, or you're the organizer, or you're the registered agent, then yes, you may have created an LLC, but you did not create privacy. Anyone, I mean anybody, your ex, an angry tenant that you have, the guy whose bumper you hit in Costco, well, maybe not the guy himself, but the ambulance chasing attorney that represents him, they can see that you are the owner or that you're associated with that LLC. And in a really twisted way, you just created a treasure map. And I've seen this in practice where opposing counsel literally will say, I can see that your client owns a lot of things. We believe that they have the ability to pay and they have something to lose. And that's what we're trying to avoid. Today I want to show you how to set up an LLC that acts like a virtual safe, a place where you can put your safe assets. And I mean like your brokerage accounts, your cash, if you have notes, if you have passive investments, even ownership interests in your other LLCs. Put them in that safe. And just as important, a structure where your personal name is not sitting out there in the public records for just anybody to find. Because most people think asset protection is just forming an LLC. It's not. Anyone can form an LLC. Asset protection is about forming the right LLC in the right state with the right documents used for the right purpose before there's an issue. That's the difference. Now, before somebody runs down in the comments and says, Toby, this sounds shady, you're keeping your name off of things. No, it's not shady. We're not talking about tax evasion. We're not talking about hiding from the IRS. You still report all of your income from the LLC on your tax return. But that is not public information. I cannot search, I'm going to look for Toby's tax information. You're not going to find it. We're not talking about hiding stuff from a bank either. Again, the information with your bank, that is not public. The bank knows that you're a signer, but there is no database where I can type in Toby Mathis. Let's see if he's a signer in any bank accounts. That does not exist. This is not hiding from legal obligations either. LLCs are fantastic at limiting liability. Heck, it's in the name, limited liability company. I am paying the state for protection under their statutes, under their laws. That's the whole point. No, what I am talking about is something entirely different, and that is privacy. Privacy is not illegal. The IRS still knows who you are. The bank can know who you are. Your attorney can know who you are. Your CPA can know exactly what you own and what you're on. But the random person searching public records at midnight in their pajamas, looking for deep pockets, does not know who you are. That's the difference. And here's the line I want you to remember. You can't sue what you can't see. Now let me qualify that because I don't want anybody misunderstanding me. Privacy does not make you immune from lawsuits. It does not make you undiscoverable once litigation starts. If there's a real lawsuit, there's subpoenas, there's post-judgment discovery, there's these things called debtor's exams. Your ownership information may eventually come out. So this isn't like it's a force field. It's not magic. But it makes you really hard to find. And it takes the bullseye off your back, and it makes you less obvious. You keep your name, your home address, your ownership information out of the public records where anybody can see it and search it. In the real world, that matters because lawsuits are oftentimes, it's going to sound weird, economic decisions. The plaintiff's lawyers are oftentimes just looking for the easiest targets. They want deep pockets. They look for assets. Realistically, a lot of times, like the personal injury guys, they're looking for insurance, and then they're looking for leverage to get as much money out of you as possible. So if your name, your home address, your entities, everything that you're on, all the properties that you own, if they're all in the public records, you just made their job a lot easier. You gave them leverage. We're trying to make their job harder. We want to make it really difficult for them to find your stuff. So let's make this really simple. There are 2 ways to keep your name off an LLC. Number 1, use a state where your name is not listed in any public records. That's Wyoming. Number 2, you could use a nominee. That's Nevada. That's why you always hear about Nevada and Wyoming. Those are the 2 big paths. Wyoming means your name is not listed at all. It's not listed as a member or a manager in a public filing. Nevada means somebody else, like at my firm, I do this. They use a nominee. Go look at Toby Mathis in the public records for Nevada. You're going to find tens of thousands of companies. And the nominee may be listed in the public role instead of you. Both can work, but they're not quite the same thing. Wyoming, nothing is listed. Nevada, you're using nominee. At Anderson, we use Wyoming probably 99% of the time. Why? Well, Wyoming's cheaper. It's a lot simpler, gives you really strong privacy, and the state gives you something called charging order protections, which means they can't take your LLC even if they can find it. And I like the idea of my client's name not being listed at all in a public record, not hidden behind a nominee, which I've done for close to 30 years, not replaced with another person, just not listed, period. It's cleaner, and that is way easier. And when you're talking about privacy, cleaner is usually better. So let me give you an example. Imagine you are walking down the street at night. It's dark, and you're walking through a neighborhood. And you know how it is when you're walking at night, and you're kind of, everything's lit up, and if somebody's house is lit up, you can see right in. So you see a house, the lights are on. Not only are the lights on, the front door is wide open, their windows are wide open. Nobody is around. And right there, when you look through their window, maybe they have one of the big, huge picture windows, you can see right in their living room, visible from the street, is a huge pile of cash. Let's say it's $1 million of cash. Big stacks of those $10,000 bricks. What do you think's going to happen? You see it, and you're a good person, you're just going to keep going on. That's not real life. Eventually, somebody is going to walk in. Maybe they're not even, you're not looking for trouble. Maybe they're not even looking for trouble, but you made it too easy. Use the Costco example. There is a case. I actually did a video on it. An $80 scratch in Costco ended up being a $3 million lawsuit. I'm not kidding. Oh, yeah, now this, that. You don't want to make it so easy. But that's what a lot of people do with their assets. They leave them very visible. They own rental properties in their names. They form LLCs and they list themselves everywhere. They even use their home address. They act as their own registered agent, which is a huge no-no. Or they put their spouse on the filing. Next thing they do is they put their safe assets, stuff that creates no risk, right next to their risky assets. And I'll just this would be like if you ever go onto a commercial flight, they always say, I don't want lithium batteries in your baggage. Like you have to take if you have a computer, they don't want that being put in checked baggage because sometimes it burns up, it lights on fire and it burns everything. You don't want to have a lithium battery in a case with a bunch of cash because it'll just burn it up. You want to separate those things out. But people do this. They leave the front door open. They leave their lights on, doors open, cash is visible from the street. And then you're scratching your head when somebody comes after you. Now compare that with something else. Okay, we have the house, it's open, the lights are on. What would you do? The first thing I would do is turn out the lights, close the door, close the blinds. Let's just try to create some safety there. But we still have cash in a house. All right, maybe we put it in a safe, but somebody could go in and steal your safe. I've actually had that happen to me, so it does happen. I had clients where somebody thinks you're worth something. Maybe you had some construction done in your house or something. Somebody was invited there, and they come back and they steal it. I've known people that has happened to. I lived it, so it does happen. And so compare that to what if we had a safe that was buried in the desert? Nobody sees it from the street. Nobody even knows where it is. There's no lights on. It's dark. The front door is shut. There is no pile of cash sitting by the window. The only way to find it, it's buried out in the desert, is if you had a pirate's treasure map. Now again, if a court get involved, there's a litigant with their ears back, they may be able to find out eventually that you own it. They may be able to get access. So do not hear me saying this like you're invisible forever. That's not the point. The point is that your safe assets are not sitting in plain view for anybody to just casually find. And that is what a virtual safe does. It doesn't make you lawless. It hides it, makes you less obvious. Now, let's talk about why I said Wyoming. And let's talk about Wyoming versus Nevada, because Wyoming is the state that we use at Anderson most often, and why? Because Wyoming does not require the member or manager to be listed in the articles of organization, period. And that's powerful, because your name is not being replaced by anything. It's just not there. It's not publicly disclosed as an owner or manager. It's just not listed. And that's a huge deal. Now, Nevada is a little different. Nevada is super strong, but if you're trying to keep your name off of a public-facing document or management records, you're going to have to use a nominee in Nevada. And I do that. Like, we love doing that with our clients, but that's an extra step. And that means that the nominee manager must appear publicly instead of you. So again, if you look on the public records, you're going to see me all over the public records in Nevada. And you're buried a needle in a haystack, which can work, but you still have to do that correctly. The nominee has to be real. The paperwork has to be real. The authority of the nominee has to be documented. You don't just throw your cousin's name on there and say, great, I'm anonymous. Your cousin's out there. That's how people get themselves into trouble, by the way. A nominee is a privacy tool. It's not a fake person. It's not a fraud tool. It's not a way to lie to the IRS. It's not a way to lie to a bank. And that is why, for most people, Wyoming is the better do-it-yourself path. It's a lower cost, it's cleaner, it's easier to maintain. And if your name is simply not listed as the owner or manager in the public record. Now, here is another reason we like Wyoming. It's not just privacy, it's charging order protection. And this is huge. A charging order is what a creditor may get when they have a judgment against you personally and they're trying to reach your LLC interest. Kind of like this. A lot of people are used to an LLC, and you have inside liability. Stuff that happens. So let's say I have a pizza shop, somebody gets hurt, it stays in here. It doesn't come out. Here's me out here. This is inside liability. This is outside. I get into a car accident. I hit somebody. They're mad. They sue me, and they want to take my LLC. That is outside liability. Inside liability, the LLC does something. Outside liability, they want to take away my LLC. They want to take my interest. Wyoming makes it that you cannot take it. In a weak state, let's say California, the judge may just give them your whole LLC. They may allow foreclosure on that interest, or the judge might appoint a receiver and say the receiver takes over the assets. The judge might start issuing orders. The judge might start deciding things that you never want a judge to decide. Hey, I'm going to sell all your rental properties and we're going to give that to the plaintiff. No, that is not where you want to be. You do not want to be sitting in court hoping the judge understands LLC law, asset protection, why your structure was set up the way it was. You don't want that. Hope is not a strategy. You want a statute that says this is the creditor's remedy, and this is the only remedy. The only remedy says you get a lien. That is a charging order. That is why a charging order protection statute matters. Wyoming law says the charging order is the exclusive remedy for a judgment creditor trying to reach a debtor's transferable LLC interest, including, by the way, single member LLCs. You can't take the LLC. You can't sell the assets. The creditor does not get to step into your shoes. They do not get to manage the LLC. They don't get to vote on anything. They don't get to force distributions. They don't get to get inside there and grab the assets. They are stuck outside hoping that you distribute profits. That's it. And if no distributions are made, they're going to be sitting out there with a piece of paper with no money. That is what I mean by protection. People generally don't want that. We don't see it. We have tens of thousands, over 100,000 clients at this point. We do not see people getting sued over when there's a charging order protection. Now, I'm not going to tell you some sort of nonsense like the creditor's going to get stuck paying the taxes but they don't have any of the income. I'm sure you've heard that because there's an argument you can make. There was one case where somebody did get management rights and they gave them the tax, and people are saying like, ha ha. But don't rely on that because that's really overstated. The real protection is much cleaner than that. Privacy keeps you from becoming an obvious target. Charging order protections limit what a creditor can do if they get a judgment against you. Low cost means you can actually afford to implement it. We're talking about hundreds of bucks. And strong statutes means you're not asking a judge to make something up later. And that's why we like Wyoming. It's super simple, it's inexpensive, it's private, and it's strong. Now, Nevada is also strong. Nevada also has charging order protections. Nevada law says the charging order is the exclusive remedy by which a judgment creditor of a member or assignee may satisfy a judgment from that member's LLC interest, whether the LLC has one member or a whole bunch. And by the way, you might be thinking, well, my state doesn't have charging order protection, so all bets are up. No, you can have an entity in your state held by Nevada or Wyoming LLC. Yeah, you can. You could even have it like even with S-corps. People are like, no, you can't. You can have a Q-sub. Yes, you can. You could have the Wyoming or Nevada entity own the domestic entity. Voila, name's off. Voila, if they come after you, they have charging order protections because you own the Wyoming or Nevada entity. Now, I'm not saying compared to between each other, Nevada is bad in any way because Nevada is a very strong state. But Nevada uses the nominee planning when realistically our goal is just to keep your name off the public records. So the nominee might add cost, it might add some complexity, it adds another moving part. And we've done it for years and it's absolutely effective, but Wyoming is actually cheaper. It's a lot simpler. And with Wyoming, the member manager is just not listed in the public articles in the first place. And that's why we at Anderson use Wyoming 99% of the time. It gives you the privacy that you want. It gives us charging order protection that we want. And it does it at a really low cost, and that's hard to beat. Now, one more thing I want to talk about, because somebody's going to ask us in the comments. What about the Corporate Transparency Act? I've been reading about this last few years. What about BOI reporting? And here's where things stand right now as I record this. In 2026, the end of June, as of today, domestic U.S. entities, meaning entities created in the United States, are not required to report beneficial ownership to FinCEN. That is the interim final rule. FinCEN says all entities created in the United States and their beneficial owners are exempt from the BOI reporting, the beneficial interest holders, right now, and that the interim final rule removed the requirement for U.S. companies and U.S. persons to report to FinCEN. So if you are a U.S. person forming a domestic Wyoming entity, as things stand right now, there is no FinCEN report for that entity. And this is actually a tailwind for privacy. But I want to be very clear. Do not treat this as permanent because it's an interim rule and it could change. Just the same as our president's change. That changed. Courts get involved. States may try to make their own versions too. You're going to have some states saying, hey, we want transparency. So I wouldn't build a structure around the assumption that it will never change. But even when that BOI reporting was in effect, that FinCEN database, it's not a public database. It's not like the Secretary of State website. It is not public where a tenant, a creditor, investigator, or a random person typing away at midnight can find your information. It was a government access only. It's not public-facing information. It's like your tax return. Can't go search for your tax return. That's Department of Treasury. That's the same thing. This is just a financial crimes network portion. And that is why I keep coming back to the same distinction. We're not hiding from the IRS. We're not hiding from banks. We're not hiding from anything that we're legally required to disclose, like if you get a court order in supplemental proceedings. What we're doing is we're keeping your name and home address off of the public records where people are just looking for a target. They're looking for deep pockets. This area moves around, right? The federal rules move, the state's rules, real estate reporting rules. So you kind of have to stay current, but I love not having your name listed. And there's another reason we like simple, clean structures. Wyoming gives you privacy in the public filing. It gives you strong charging order protections. It's really low cost, and if the reporting rules change later, you still have a structure that makes sense. Now, I told you this was a do-it-yourself. So let's talk about doing it yourself. Step number one, you go out and file the entity. For most people, that means forming an LLC. But here's the catch. If you don't want your name on that, you cannot put yourself in every public-facing role. That's where people get confused. They say, hey, Toby, I want to do it myself. Okay, you can do it yourself. But if privacy is your goal, you're still going to need third-party help for certain pieces. You're going to need a commercial registered agent because it can't be your address. You need a business address that does not point back to your house. And in some cases, you're going to want that third-party organizer. That's what we use in Wyoming. So your name's not listed there. Because if you personally sign everything, use your home address, act as your own registered agent, and put yourself in every public-facing document, guess what? Your name is in the public record, even if it's Wyoming. So do it yourself does not always mean you do every single step personally. Do it yourself means you understand the process, you understand the structure, and you control the decisions being made. But you still use third parties, like Anderson, where the law or privacy, like a nominee, requires it. And that is your first lesson. If you want your name off of the public records, do not put your name on the public records. It sounds obvious, but that is where most people mess it up. Don't have your name listed in these things. You go online, you start trying to do it yourself, and it requires that, stop. Just call us. I'll give you contact information here in a second. We'll do it for you. Step two, you have to get an employer identification number, an EIN. After the LLC is formed, you get this from the IRS, and that stands for Employer Identification Number. It's like a tax ID. It's like your social security number for your business. And this is where people try to get cute. They say, well, Toby, I want the LLC to be anonymous, so I'm going to use my buddy as a responsible party. No, don't do that. Don't use your friend. Don't use your cousin. Don't use your assistant. Don't use a nominee to try to trick the IRS. When the IRS asks who the responsible party is, it's you. Tell the truth. We're not hiding from the IRS. The IRS information is not the same as the public Secretary of State record. It's not sitting online for tenants, creditors, plaintiffs, lawyers, investigators, random people to search. No, the IRS can know it's you. The bank can know it's you. The CPA can know it's you. Your attorney can know it's you. But the public, they don't need a treasure map saying here's where all my stuff is. Step three, draft the operating agreement. This is the step most do-it-yourselfers skip. They think that the LLC is just a state filing. It is not. It needs a body. The state creates the shell. The operating agreement gives it a body, gives it the LLC rules. Who owns it, who management, what they can do, can they sign, what kind of distributions are made, when do you have to do it, what happens if somebody passes away, what happens if somebody sues you, what happens if a creditor gets a judgment. All that has to be in that operating agreement. What if somebody tries to seize somebody's membership interest? The operating agreement needs to cover those situations. And this is where you don't want to be lazy, because if the operating agreement is silent, if it's vague, sloppy, you're leaving it to state law, or you might be leaving it to a judge to decide. And you don't want a judge deciding these things. I don't want a judge deciding whether a creditor can interfere with the management of my company. I don't want a judge deciding whether distributions are required to be made to that creditor. I do not want a judge deciding whether my LLC should be treated like a real structure or whether it was just a personal piggy bank and they just ignore it. We want the operating agreement to be very clear. We want the statutes that we use and we form under to be very strong, and we want that structure to be respected. So do not leave your life savings to a discretion of a judge if you can avoid it. Don't leave it to something that you just filled out online. You did it on the cheap. Expect crappy results. The whole point is to create the rules before the fight starts. Step number 4. Open the bank account or brokerage account in the name of the LLC. Not you and say, but I have it. No, because that's not it. It's not in there yet. It's outside the safe. You have a safe and your cash is sitting outside it. The safe is closed and you're like, hey, it's a fireproof safe. That cash is safe. The cash is not in the safe yet. You got to get the cash in the safe. And that's where that virtual safe really comes in. Once you have a Wyoming LLC, the EIN, the operating agreement, you can open a bank account or a brokerage account in the name of the LLC. Now, it's not you anymore. Somebody gets your judgment, they're looking after you. It's not you. Now the Wyoming LLC becomes your virtual safe. That is where you can hold safe assets. Inside that safe, cash, brokerage accounts, your stocks, your bonds, your notes, your passive investments, your membership interests in other LLCs. For example, here I have an LLC outside here. I own it inside another LLC. We generally want things inside here that don't create liability for themselves. Again, it was the battery example. We don't want to put cash and a lithium battery inside a safe. But I want to be very clear. Things that create risk. Real estate creates a ton of risk. You do not put those types of dangerous assets in a virtual safe. You do not put a rental property directly in the same LLC that holds your brokerage account. You do not run an operating business out of the same LLC that has a bunch of cash in it. You do not put vehicles, employees, tenants, or in with your cash, in with your brokerage account, because that becomes a big pile. And that's not a safe anymore, that's really a junk drawer. Look, safe assets go in the virtual safe. Dangerous assets might go in different boxes. So let's talk about real estate, for example. Real estate is incredibly dangerous. Let's say we have a couple of properties up here. Tenants can fall. I mean, I love real estate. I own real estate. I think real estate is one of the best ways to build wealth, but real estate creates lawsuits. Tenants could sue. Their guests could sue. Contractors sue. Neighbors come over, they sue. People claim mold. They say there's something wrong with the house. It's not habitable. They say, my friend here slipped and fell or stepped on a nail. Or they claim discrimination. It happens. So if you own real estate, do not put all of your real estate and safe assets into one LLC. That is not a structure. That is a pile. Remember what piles tend to stink, right? We got to spread it around. I like one LLC per property, especially when you're getting started off. Especially if there's any equity or there's exposure or there's good cash flow. One property, one LLC stays inside. If there's a lawsuit, it stays in the box. But then I might take these and put them in a real estate Wyoming holding LLC so that I have the outside protection. So the Wyoming LLC owns those property LLCs. The property LLC can be in your state, owns the property, and the Wyoming LLC acts as your, basically a private holding company. You still have your virtual safe for the safe assets, and you've isolated out the risky assets. And that way, your rentals are separated from each other. The safe assets are separated from your risky assets, and your personal name on all of this is not sitting in the public records to make you an obvious target. And by the way, when we set this up, it owns these LLCs. So when something's listed in your local, let's say you're in Nevada or California, you're going to be listing the Wyoming entity as the member. Sometimes it's going to be member managed. It might be both. It's going to be listed in the public database, not you. And so what have we just done? Go back to my analogy. You're walking down the street. We've turned out the lights and we've closed the front door, for sure. Now, there are variations. Sometimes with real estate, we're going to use a land trust for even further protection. Sometimes we're going to be using state-specific entities. Maybe sometimes we're going to use Nevada. Sometimes we're going to use corporations for different types of activities. Sometimes we use different structures depending on the type of asset, the state where it's held, whether there's tax issues, transfers issues, whether there's financing involved, what type of title you're holding, and what your goals are. But the concept holds true. Dangerous assets go into separate boxes, safe assets go into the virtual safe, and the owner of the boxes should not be your personal name in a public record if you can legally avoid it. We want your name not in the public record. So nobody knows that this thing exists. That is the structure. Now, one more warning. Do not wait until you have a lawsuit. You do not wait until you have a judgment. Do not wait until there's already a creditor rolling around, because if you have a known claim and then you start moving assets around, that's going to be a fraudulent conveyance or avoidable transaction. You're going to have fraudulent transfer issues, and that can actually make things worse. You want to have the safe before the thief is in your house. You bury the treasure before a pirate is chasing you around. You don't want Captain Hook standing in front of you, and then you're sitting there and you go, gosh darn it, I should bury my treasure. It's not how it works. You've got to do it way ahead. Asset protection is done when the waters are calm. It's pretty simple to do. Let me go over the do-it-yourself framework again. First, you form a Wyoming LLC. Why Wyoming? Because it's cheap, it's low cost. Your name's not listed as the member or manager in the public documents, has strong charging order protections. It's simple enough and it has low enough threshold that most people can maintain it pretty simple. Second, use a third party where privacy requires it. Use a commercial registered agent like Anderson Business Advisors. Use a proper business address like we have. Do not use your home address in public records. Do not act as your own registered agent if privacy is the goal. Then, third, get the EIN. Get that tax ID for that business. Tell the IRS the truth. You're not hiding from the IRS. Fourth, draft a real operating agreement. Don't use garbage documents. No LegalZoom or online formation company. That does not cut it. Same amount of respect you show your entity is the same amount of respect the court is going to show it. And if they're like, oh, how much did you respect? It's kind of like, right? Bill Gates isn't showing up saying, I just did my LLC online. Now, if you want help, just type registered agent in the comments and we can help. Don't skip it. Don't leave important issues for a judge to decide later on this one. Now, fifth, open the bank account or brokerage account. And this is where Wyoming LLC becomes your virtual safe. It's for cash, brokerage assets, notes, passive investments, your membership interests, your safe assets. Six, I'll just say six, is keep your real estate separate. Because real estate is dangerous, creates lawsuits. Do not put your rental property inside the same LLC that holds your brokerage account. Your rental property, that gets its own LLC. Your safe assets go in the virtual safe. Seventh, last thing, maintain the structure. Make sure you do your annual reports. Make sure you have a registered agent. Just keep up with that. They'll usually notify you, like we notify all of our clients, hey, annually. And again, we're talking a couple $100 or less every year. That's it. Separate your bank accounts. Keep good books if it's a regular business. No commingling those assets. Don't like, hey, I'm just going to mix all these things up and use one bank account. Respect it. Treat it as a separate entity. Because an LLC is not magic. It's a legal container that's very effective. If you treat it with respect, it will protect you. If you treat it like a personal checking account, Court's going to give it the same amount of respect you do. So if you treat it with respect, it's going to be respected. If you disrespect it, it will be disrespected. And now here's your action item. This is going to be fun. Go search yourself. Go look through your Secretary of State website. Go look at, I think it's Open Secrets. Go search your LLC. Go search your name. Go search your home address. Look at what comes up. Were you able to find your name in some of those databases? How about your spouse's name? Do you see your home address popping up with your name listed near it? Are you listed on anything like as a manager? Are you listed on any of the entities you have as a registered agent? Basically, is everything kind of pointing back to you? Because if the answer is yes, you don't have privacy. You have paperwork, but you don't have privacy. And if you have safe assets sitting in your personal name, or safe assets mixed with your risky assets like rental real estate, well, you got another problem. So you may have built the well-lit house with the front door wide open and a pile of cash sitting in your living room and you didn't even know it. You want the safe that is buried in the desert. There's no sign on it, there's no spotlight, there's no open door. There's no treasure map literally sitting in the public records. That's our goal. Keep it private. And if you want help setting this up correctly, schedule a free appointment with us. One of our advisors at Anderson Business Advisors, we've been doing this for close to 30 years. We can look at your assets, we can look at your real estate, your LLCs, your state filings, and help you figure out where the exposure is and then minimize it. And make sure that you register for our tax and asset protection workshops. We teach them almost every week, and we go over how to create a privacy shield, what entities do what LLCs do, what corporations do, what trusts do. Because this video is just one piece of the puzzle. At the workshop, it's a day-long workshop, we go deeper into Wyoming LLCs, Nevada LLCs, nominee structures, real estate LLCs, land trusts, corporations, tax strategies, how to create a legacy, how to use trusts, how to build an actual plan around your assets. So I'm going to give you 2 links in the show notes. One is to schedule an appointment. One is to register for the tax and asset protection workshop. Do both, because the worst time to find out your LLC does not protect you is after somebody is suing you. Go search your own name and tell me what you find out. I would love to see it in the comments. Just let me know in the comments what showed up. Did your name show up? Did your personal address show up? Did you accidentally leave the front door of your house open with all your lights on? Because if you did, you're not alone. But you do need to fix it. So, last thing, make sure you like the video, subscribe to the channel if you like this type of content. If you know anybody that this would benefit, please share this with them. I've done thousands of videos. Like you could see on this channel, there's over 1,000 videos. My partner Clint Coons has a fantastic channel as well that goes into these types of topics. So if you can, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.